I am going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Santa Barbara Unified School District's Board of Education for June 13th, 2017. And we are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise. Mr. Matsuoka.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos. Si hay alguien aquí en el público que necesita interpretación en español, tenemos los aparatos disponibles por esas puertas dobles. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And we do have headsets available for the hearing impaired at the side tables here if anybody needs one of those. Announcement of closed session action. Okay, we have a number of items to report out. First of all, on item D1, this was conference with legal counsel on existing litigation. The board moved to approve a final settlement and agreement for $44,353 in compensatory services in case number 201-703-0584. That was moved by Ms. Sims-Moten and seconded by Dr. Reed, and the vote passed unanimously. On item D2, this was also conference with legal counsel on anticipated litigation. The board moved to approve a final settlement and agreement for a student for $7,500 in compensatory services. That was moved by Mr. Paredes Ulloa and seconded by Ms. Sims-Moten. And again, that was a 5-0 vote. Then, item D9, we had two items. D9 was public employee appointment. First up, we had a titled description of position to be filled. This was CTE, Visual and Performing Arts Coordinator, and that was moved by Dr. Reed and seconded by Mr. Paredes Ulloa to appoint Kimberly Hoy as our new CTE VAPA Coordinator, and that passed 5-0. And then the next position was elementary principal, and it was moved by Ms. Sims-Moten and seconded by Ms. Capps to appoint Kelly Fresh as the principal at Adams Elementary School, and that was a 5-0 vote. All other items we did not take action on in closed session. There are a couple that we will take action on in open session. And that is the end of item E5 and brings us to item E6, the superintendent's report. Mr. Matsuoka.
So we have quite a few new administrators to welcome to our team, and I'd like to begin by introducing three Dean of Student Engagement people, and they are all waiting in the back, and the board approved them at the last board meeting, but I think you were all busy or we were late, I can't remember, so we want to introduce all three of them. And so I'm going to do this east to west, otherwise I'll mess it up. So Santa Barbara High School. Go ahead and come on up. This is Mario Rodriguez, and Mario is currently teaching physics, I believe, at Santa Barbara High School. He's a mechanical engineer by background. Peek that his resume. And Mario, you and I need to share some notes about your time at Da Vinci Science School down in Hawthorne, California, because you work for Steve Wallace.
Yes.
Yes.
I did not know you knew him.
Yes, he's a former student of mine.
Torrance background?
Yes,
Yeah.
so look forward to that. So Mario's been at Santa Barbara High School for several years now, and so we now welcome him into the Dean of Students role. So welcome, Mario.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to do this in two languages. I'll do it in Spanish and English. So I'll start first with the Spanish. Estimados estudiantes, padres, comunidad y miembros de la Junta, me gustaría darles las gracias por tenerme y tener la confianza en mí para servir como su decano de participación estudiantil. Vine a Santa Bárbara como hace más de 5 años, un poquitito, y desde ese entonces he tenido la fortuna de sentir el abrazo de esta comunidad y también del distrito escolar. Espero regresar el abrazo a través del trabajo que haremos juntos para mantener a nuestros estudiantes en la escuela y mejorar sus oportunidades hacia el éxito. Gracias de nuevo. Dear students, parents, community, and board members, I would like to thank you for having the trust in me to serve as your Dean of Student Engagement. I came to Santa Barbara a little more than 5 years ago, and since then I've had the fortunate of feeling the embrace of the city and of the school district. So I look forward to returning that embrace in the work we'll be doing together toward keeping our students in school and improving their opportunities for success. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And welcome.
Next, I'd like to welcome Jennifer Palacios to come up and be introduced. Jennifer is going to be placed at San Marcos High School, also in the same role, Dean of Student Engagement. Jennifer's last body of work was up in Toronto, Canada, and she served as a guidance counselor. You taught French. I believe you taught in a French dual immersion high school.
Yes.
So, and she's trilingual. So I don't know what language you're going to use as you introduce yourself.
Let's have some French for a change.
Yeah,
well,
so welcome,
Si
Jennifer.
vous voulez, mais I think I'll stick to English for this evening. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for having me here and for welcoming me into this school district. I'm very excited about being the Dean of Student Engagement at San Marcos High School. Since I'm brand new to the district, I wanted to introduce myself a little bit, tell you a little bit more about my background and my experience. So I am originally from Toronto, Canada. I started my career as an educator there over 15 years ago, and I started as a classroom teacher teaching high school French and English. After a few years, I moved into a school counselor position, and in my last position, it was as the head of guidance and career education at a high school in Toronto. So I am passionate about supporting student success and about helping students to develop their full potential, and these are passions that I hope to bring to my position at San Marcos High School in supporting the students of Santa Barbara Unified. So you may ask yourselves, what am I doing in California? My husband is actually from the area, and he's a graduate of UCSB, actually. And after a number of years of living in Canada, we decided to move permanently to California and make the Santa Barbara area our home. So I am very excited to be here and to be a part of the leadership team here at Santa Barbara Unified. And thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And I look forward to working with you all very closely. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last candidate is going to hobble his way up. Well, he's not really hobbling. So this is Nate Mendoza, and Nate has been working in our district specifically as a special ed teacher at Dos Pueblos, and he actually was starting to move into somewhat dean of student responsibilities. And so Nate's been with us for a while, and he also serves as the football coach at Dos Pueblos. So it's interesting to see a coach on crutches. A little story. So welcome, Nate.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone being here tonight, and completely honored and to have this privilege, and really appreciate everybody believing in me to do this very important job. I am truly passionate about every single student that I come across every day. I really believe in getting the most out of every student. I have been at Dos Pueblos High School for 8 years, worked my way up from a substitute teacher to instructional aide to to special education teacher, and now to administrator, as well as head baseball coach and head football coach. So again, I just feel so honored to be in this position at Dos Pueblos High School and to represent the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Thank you very much. All right.
And then tonight in closed session, the board approved a new principal for Adams Elementary School. And that was quite a entry and welcome by the Adams staff and for Dr. Alzina. So I'd like to introduce Kelly Fresh, and she's coming to us from Tustin Unified. You've spent, I believe, 22 years in that district. She's been an elementary principal for 13 years in 2 different schools, so it's really nice to have a veteran, someone who brings experience. And she's served in different kinds of settings. I would say your current school is similar to Adams, so let's welcome Kelly.
Good evening, Superintendent Matsuoka, members of the board, members of the community, and most importantly, members of the staff, parent, and student community for Adams Elementary School. My name is Kelly Fresh, and as he said, I am coming from Tustin Unified with 22 years of experience, 21 of them in Tustin, 17 as a site administrator, and I was an elementary school teacher before that. I feel like coming from Orange County, so I am relocating. I'm excited about that. I have lots of friends up here that are going to help me through that transition, but I'm just really excited to connect to a new school and a new opportunity for myself. Upon first meeting me, I most likely come across as healthy, confident, serious, but also approachable. And as you get to know me, I'm sure that you'll find me funny, sincere, and most passionate about education. Some of my strengths include communication, analyzing data to make sound decisions which help students achieve their individual goals, sensible spending and allocation of resources to ensure that both staff and students have what they need to be successful, and a keen awareness of my surroundings and others' immediate needs, which I try to tend to. I have great knowledge of the Common Core standards and the state testing accountability system, and I have a background in professional development in balanced literacy, CGI, NGSS, and systematic ELD. But I'm also just a very helpful team member, and I look forward to joining your team. I value STEM and PE and visual and performing arts, and I notice that you have lots of that in place already, so I'm excited about that. My personal commitment involves making sure that students are not only engaged in their learning, but having fun in their educational endeavor, and that they grow up to be confident, lifelong learners, and productive members of society. I model what I expect and only ask from staff and students what they're capable of delivering and handling. I feel extremely excited, blessed, and thankful to be invited to be a part of the leadership team here in Santa Barbara. And please note that as the instructional leader of Adams Elementary School, I plan to maintain the programs and systems that are already in place, bringing about your student achievement and excitement for learning and the very evident overall love by all for your school. I look forward to this new journey, knowing that we both have so much to offer each other. And lastly, I want to ensure that the parents know I know and value how much of a role you play in the success of your individual students and the school as a whole. So I look forward to getting to know the community just as deeply as the staff and the students. And again, I thank you for allowing me to have a few moments of your time tonight, and hopefully many, many years in your family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fresh, and I have to say I'm an Adams alum parent. All 3 of my children went to Adams. It holds a special place in my heart, and I know that it's a fabulous community, a fabulous staff, and I'm just looking forward to them having a wonderful relationship with you. So welcome. And thanks so much to the staff for turnout. I am so impressed. I mean, I think it means a lot to an incoming principal when you step forward this way. And I know that we did this, you had everybody do this for you, Mr. Matsuoka, when you arrived in the district, and it makes a difference, right? So thank you all. Thank you all. All right, we will get through this first section of the agenda pretty quickly at this point. And if anybody needs to leave right now, you are welcome to do so.
One more.
Oh, Mr. Matsuoka.
Before you all depart, so I believe it's a tradition. It's a good tradition. If not, we'll start one. So one of our past leaders passed away. His name was Eugene Edward Snyder. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And so he was, actually, maybe you could.
What's that? Santa Barbara High.
Yeah. Co-principal of Santa Barbara High School. And he just passed away recently. And so I thought let's just take a moment of silence just in remembrance of Eugene Snyder and for his service and commitment to our district in the past. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, now you can all leave.
Board comments and correspondence. Anything to share, Ms. Sims-Moten?
I just want to share what a great time I had with my first experience as a board member in the graduations this past week. I also learned a couple things that cute and comfortable, not necessarily hand in hand. As I was standing there, these are some cute shoes, but they're not necessarily comfortable. I also grew a forearm shaking all those hands, but what joy it was to see on their faces. I think I was just as excited as they were with regards to that. And a few of them kept trying to not let me do my job. I was like, I need to hand this to you. Don't take it from me. This is my job to do that. So I thoroughly enjoyed that and look forward to in the years come.
Dr. Reed?
Yeah, I was just ditto what Ms. Sims-Moten, sorry, I'm leaning too close, stated. And it was such a great experience to also go to the awards ceremony and see the students awarded for the work that they're doing and for not just their academic work, but what they're doing in art and music and drawing and all of the aspects of school. So it was really heartening to see their passion for what they do and to acknowledge it. And also just to add, I was the lucky one who got to actually physically handshake all 500 at San Marcos High. A little shoulder ache, but it was worth it. And also the 300 earlier in the day at Santa Barbara Junior High. So anyway, it was an amazing experience, and I think it was really a highlight of my experience in being on the board.
Mr. Paredes Ulloa?
I want to selfishly just plug Ms. Capps and my time at Santa Barbara High School this last week as alum ourselves, once a Don, always a Don. It was nice to be able to walk down that hill and see it as it was when we graduated, and again, just being able to see the students was just so awesome. I was over the moon the whole time, especially, again, going back home to my high school, but also just seeing our students, and then also as an SBCC employee, be able to see a lot of the students that I've been working with the last few weeks to get them prepared to register for college. So it was a nice little handoff from one hat I wear to the other.
Yep. Yes, well, I'm going to give a shout out to Miss Bianchi Clayman as well, because she was busy upping the ante on our social media and leaping from one location to the next and taking short videos, and that was really great. So it was fun to see all that on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, that brings us to item E8. This is public comments on non-agenda matters within jurisdiction of the Board of Education. Dr. Reed.
Yes, we have 3 public comments, and I'm going to read all 3 names, and you can just go in order after the next. Eric Heidner, Jeff Peterson, and James Mui. Right. Thank you.
We're going to go slightly out of order. I'm Jeff Peterson, music teacher at Goleta Valley Junior High School, and I'm here to talk about the reduction of the Santa Barbara Junior High School instrumental music position from a 100% position to a 60% position for the coming school year. I understand the conundrum that you face. Budget shortfalls and sunsetting of the parcel tax at the end of this year necessitate making cuts. Unfortunately, this proposed cut of Santa Barbara Junior High School instrumental music, if enacted, will set up a chain of events that undoubtedly will lead to either drastic cuts or even the elimination of both the junior high and high school instrumental music program in Santa Barbara within a very short time. This will happen for several reasons. First of all, doing away with the 7th period class will diminish equal access to music classes for all students. Secondly, combining band and orchestra classes or 2 levels of classes is not educationally sound or either group of students, and will cause students to become frustrated and possibly quit or choose to be transferred to another elective when they're forced to be in a class with students of different levels. Third, you cannot develop the relationships that are so important to a successful program if they're not available on campus, such as during lunch or after school. Finally, a part-time person will likely not bring the energy and time it takes to build a successful program. If a junior high school program is unsuccessful, then the high school program will be unsuccessful, because the high school depends on the pool of candidates and students for their classes. The junior highs in this district continue to offer more and more attractive elective choices for students, making it virtually impossible to create vibrant, self-sustaining programs for junior high music classes. All elective teachers compete for students. At a certain point, it doesn't work out mathematically. Too many classes, too few students. We asked Michael Stone, past president of the California Music Educators Association, his opinion on the challenges we face. He said, and I quote, "The system is designed for you to have small classes," unquote. Music teachers at SBJ have done everything in their power to find creative solutions to this problem, including teaching before school classes and after school classes. This proposal will cut 26 instrumental music students currently signed up for after school classes, as the .6 position does not include after school classes. The LCAP plan for this district addresses this issue, and I quote, "Student engagement is one of the state priorities in the LCAP. Research shows that student involvement in activities that invoke creativity, such as arts, result in positive engagement with school. The district data indicates that student engagement is a need for socially, economically disadvantaged English language and foster youth students. Providing access to the arts with current educational financial status requires an intentional focus as the resources of these programs are often diminished due to financial constraints. But it will primarily impact the district's socioeconomic disadvantaged English language and foster youth students, who are often the students who lose access to such programs," unquote. This district has embraced the ideals of equity, inclusion, and access for all students, especially in the area of the arts. Just one more sentence. This position reduction will do just the opposite. Students who are being affected by the decision are the ones most in need of access to the musical arts. Thank you.
Jeff, you're tall. Good evening. My name is Eric Heidner, and for the past 14 years, I've been the band director and professor of music at Santa Barbara City College. I'm also the former band director at Santa Barbara High School. I served there from 1999 to 2003, and I'm a product of the Santa Barbara School District, having attended Goleta Valley Junior High and Dos Pueblos High School a few years before that, shall we say. I've seen the decline in numbers in our local instrumental music programs, especially in the last 10 or so years, but due to the recent announcement of the Santa Barbara Junior High music teaching position going to be a .6 position, I'm deeply concerned about the long-term consequences, and I feel compelled to speak and offer my perspective and potential solutions. It is a wonderful thing that all Santa Barbara District elementary students are required to learn to play a musical instrument, but you're losing out on your investment due to a bottleneck in enrollment when these students matriculate into the junior highs. The outgoing Santa Barbara Junior High School music teacher, Karen Dutton, has done a wonderful job with the students she had, but she was frustrated due to the inability for her to get students that wanted to play music into her classes due to the lack of available periods. This lack stems from multiple causes. Students that are required to take multiple math or English classes, students that are in the AVID program, or students that are taking optional academic courses such as a foreign language. They have no room for electives such as music at all. Being a product of the Santa Barbara School District, I do not know what would have motivated me to want to be in school during junior high and high school if it would have not been for those music courses. The problem at Santa Barbara Junior High and other campuses is not an instructor-based issue. I know all of our local music teachers very well, and I can assure you that they are all very highly regarded by me and my colleagues. So here's my proposition. Looking at the recent success at La Colina Junior High's program that's achieved in gaining numbers from its instrumental music program, I believe that much of that success has to do with the principal's decision to allow a 7-period schedule for the music students. That's also going on at La Cumbra, but it's not across the board. We once had 7-period days for all junior high students at all 4 campuses, but we lost that ability during a budget crunch in 2003. While it would be likely too costly to consider reinstating the full 7-period day for all junior high students at this time, I implore you to consider following La Colina's model and La Cumbra's model and offer 7-period days for the music students at all 4 of your junior highs to achieve the equity and parity in your district that you claim in your mission statement. In my remaining time, I also strongly urge you to reconsider offering the Santa Barbara Junior High School music program for the coming year at a full-time position instead of a .6 position. If you truly want to get the best person for that job that will rebuild that program and subsequently fuel Santa Barbara High School to rebuild as well, you cannot offer a part-time position in a town with such a high high cost of living. The music educators in this town stand united and are gladly willing to help you find the right person to rebuild these programs, but we can think of no one who would take the job at part-time. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with you in the future. You can contact me through my SBCC email, heidner@sbcc.edu, if you'd like to discuss the matter further. Thank you very much.
I don't have as many pages as Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Mui, and I also teach at Santa Barbara City College, conduct the orchestra there, and I also taught high school and loved it. I didn't escape to City College. I love teaching high school. And that's why we're all here, because we love students and we love teaching. By the way, Jeff Peterson is one of the finest teachers I've ever seen in my 40 years of doing this stuff. So listen to what he says. He is a wise, sage man in this district. Okay, I'll go on. Like my associate, Eric Heidner, I come here today to offer solutions to the bottleneck at Santa Barbara Junior High in particular, but at all the junior highs. Thank you, first off, for taking on an additional VAPA and CTE coordinator, Kimberly Hoy. Was Kimberly here?
No, not
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
You'll get
Well,
a chance to meet her in the future.
I want to meet her. It's a really good opportunity for a career tech and arts wheel for 7th graders like they have at Goleta Valley Junior High. Why not do that at Santa Barbara High School as well? This way you could expose lots of students to that wood shop, which is so terribly popular, and also fill out the schedule and something that students, once they participate in, they buy into for life, music. This is something that is very viable at that site, a wheel which includes the career tech, the career tech and the arts. So think about that, please. Wood shop and band would work. Shop and theater would also work. This would allow students to continue to an advanced class in the 8th grade. So you pull that off at the 7th grade, now you have numbers at 8th grade, and of course that is going to feed Santa Barbara High School. And that's been the problem. We've seen this bottleneck at Santa Barbara Junior High. Santa Barbara High is withering. Well, what do we do about it? Let's split the position. That doesn't work. That kills everything. So I'm saying we need to water the roots of the tree. We've got the elementary happening, but boy, that junior high is really bottlenecked up. And this is a way around it, both Eric Heidner's solution and my solution. So I hope you get a chance to think about that. I'm Mui at sbcc.edu. Mui like a cow with a Y at the end, so feel free to contact me if you have any further questions, okay? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mui, did I shake your hand, your son's hand at Dos Polos? Did you have a graduate?
Yeah, I did. Stephen, oh my gosh, goodness.
Yeah. Unusual last name.
Top there at Santa Barbara Junior High.
Okay, we have one more public comment. Joanne Rehnquist.
Hi, my name is Joanne Rehnquist, and I apologize for being out of order today. I wasn't aware of the timeline and the way that we do everything. Anyway, I'm here because my daughter was a 7th grader this past year at Santa Barbara Junior High, and I just heard from Mrs. Dutton that this whole thing was happening, and I was really concerned because music is such an important part of my past in school, as well as my daughter's experience this past year. She played the flute in Mrs. Dutton's band, and she started out very insecure and feeling like she wasn't very good at all, and Mrs. Dutton was so wonderful and encouraged her and built her up so that she actually ended up loving band. And by the time Christmas was over, after all the parades and everything, she said, I want to do band again. Whereas in the very beginning of the school year, she said, I don't think I want to do band anymore. She wanted to go out. So, there was something absolutely very special about Mrs. Dutton and band itself. Now, for her, it was a time of the day when it was her favorite time. It was a time to enjoy and be with friends and socialize and play music, which is so therapeutic. For me, thinking back to junior high and high school, it was a place of solace for me, a place where, you know, everybody here remembers how hard it was to grow up, to be in junior high, to be in high school, and all the social problems that come with it. But music, being in choir, being in band, was the one place where I felt like I could do something well and be recognized for it. I was not an athlete. I was smart, I did well in school, but I was not an athlete. I was not known for that. But music was the place where I felt like I got my self-worth. So cutting down the program would not bring in a teacher. I don't believe it would bring in a teacher who could spend the time with these kids to make it that kind of a place, to make it a kind of a program where kids feel like they can grow and experience that self-confidence. What I also noticed at Santa Barbara Junior High at the spring concert was the principal wasn't there.
You have 30 seconds left.
No one was there except for Mrs. Dutton and the parents of the children at the program. It needs more support, not less. It needs the principal, the head, the staff, everyone to come to announce, hey, this program is happening, so that other kids can see, hey, this is a neat program. I want to be a part of that. That's how you grow it. More support, not less. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We really appreciate hearing from so many different levels on that particular issue, so thank you. This moves us from public comment to our section F, acceptance of donations. Would somebody care to make a motion?
I move accept with gratitude the donations of June 13, 2017.
All right, moved by Ms. Sims-Moton and seconded by Ms. Capps. All those in favor? Aye. It passes unanimously. Consent agenda. Any items to pull, board members?
Yes, item 6.
You would like to pull G6. That's the ratification of special education contracts. Any others to pull? All right, we will come back to item G6 at the end of the meeting. For the rest of the consent agenda, is there a motion?
So moved.
I second it.
Moved by Ms. Sims-Moton to pass the remainder of the consent agenda, and seconded by Dr. Reed. All those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. This brings us to our public hearing section. H1 is the local control accountability plan. So I'm going to go ahead and gavel close the regular meeting and open this public hearing to talk about the local control accountability plan for 2017 to 2020. Hoi. And this is our second public hearing. And is Dr. Ramirez, are you taking the... You too. Carrie and Ramirez, please.
Yes, so we will have an opportunity to get into more of a report at the latter part of the meeting, but this is an opportunity for the public to express any thoughts or have any input.
Is there any public comment on this? No? All right, then we're going to close the public hearing on the local control accountability plan and move into the public hearing on the Santa Barbara Unified School District's 2017-2018 fiscal year proposed budget and components of ending fund balance. And that's Ms. Jeté.
Good evening, board members. So part of your packet, you received an estimated SACS printout, which is our state financial system that we report our budget to. This is an estimated adopted budget, And there will be changes that I believe you guys saw this afternoon. And I just want to let you know that our budget fully supports the LCAP and the supplemental funds. And part of my requirement to you tonight is also discuss the components of ending fund balance, which we have up here. On estimated actuals for June 16, we started the school year on the unrestricted side of the budget with 18 million. The estimated results of operation is 1.3. That is projected ending fund balance is 6.9. And of those components of ending fund balance, we have some one-time instructional materials that we will have. Of the 16 million, 6.6 is designated for support for instructional materials and technology. And then on 17-18, we're anticipating a one-time funds of instructional materials of 3.2 million to be in reserve for 18-19. So also, you can go down. We also want to include our special reserve of 6 million in 16-17 and 6.1 million in 17-18. As I said, these two documents were produced about a week and a half ago. You saw more updated documents in the budget session. So come 6/27, June 22nd, 7th, when we come back to adopt the budget, they'll be closer to those numbers. But I just want to reiterate that the purpose of this is to ensure that we have budgeted to support the LCAP, and we have done so.
All right, so yes, thank you, Mr. Tay, and we did have, for the benefit of the members of the public, we did have a study session on the budget at 4:30 today that was open to the public. Are there any public comments on this item? Dr. Reed? She's like, there's no magic. No. We will be talking about the budget more extensively at our next meeting, the overall budget, and we will be talking about the LCAP later this meeting. All right. Thank you very much, and I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, reopen the regular meeting, and we are moving into our board action agenda. First up is item I-1. This is board action on a petition for readmission of an expelled student in case number 2015-16-49.
In the case of 2015-1649, I move to accept the reentry from full expulsion for one school year ending June 2017.
Second.
That was moved by Dr. Reed and seconded by Ms. Sims-Moten. All those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. I-2. This is board action on student discipline in case number 2016-17-46.
In the case of 2016-17-46, I move to accept the stipulated agreement for expulsion with enforcement suspended.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Reed and seconded by Ms. Sims-Moten. All those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. And then item I-3, this is board action on student discipline in case number 2016-17-49.
In the case of 2016-17-49, I move to accept the stipulated agreement for full expulsion for one school year which ends January 2018.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Reed and seconded by Ms. Sims-Moten. All those in favor? Aye. And that passed unanimously. Okay. This brings us to item I-4, approval of updated front-end documents for construction contracts. Mr. Hedjunk.
Thank you, Mr. Matsuoka. President Parker, on a recent board meeting, I took the opportunity to familiarize the board with our front-end documents. And during that time period, we've also been in discussion with legal counsel and in reviewing the documents in changing from a multi-prime back to a traditional either design, bid, build, or other construction delivery method. We felt it was an opportune time to go through and update the documents due to recent changes in statutes. So I've attached a red line version and a final version here to answer any questions. If you have any questions on the changes, and the final version will contain the approval date, if you approve them this evening, at the bottom of each of those pages of the front-end documents, as was discussed previously.
Thank you on that.
Any comments on the red line? That was a lot. Okay. All right. Well, then, if there are no more questions for Mr. Hetjank or suggested changes, then we do need a motion to approve the updated front-end documents for construction contracts.
So moved.
I second it.
That was moved by Mr. Paredes Ulloa and seconded by Dr. Reed. All those in favor? Aye. And it passes unanimously. Thanks, Mr. Hetjank.
Thank you.
Next up, I-5, approval of Fast Forward Reading Intervention Program 2017-18 school year.
Good evening.
I'm like, where's Ms. Rodriguez?
Good evening, President Kate Parker, board members, Superintendent Matsuoka, and cabinet members. I'd like to ask Ariel Carey to come to the podium. Ariel has been in charge of our reading committee and developing the plan and working and collaborating. So at this time, if you have any questions regarding the Fast Forward, this is the second year of implementation. Next year, we're looking at all sites in the district to have this program.
Good evening, board members. I'm here today to answer any questions that you have based on the information you were provided regarding our implementation of Fast Forward next school year.
Ms. Capps?
Yeah, I guess if you were just to tell us, I know you provided it in writing, but just what's the most promising part of the program that you are excited about in full implementation?
Great question. So we were able to pilot Fast Forward this current school year that is just recently wrapped with several of our school sites. La Cumbre was our highlight school. They were very successful implementing this program, and students that participated at that site made 1 to 3 years worth of growth in reading, which is fantastic. And we started out with just our students receiving special education services and then expanded it to students who are in general education that were struggling with reading, and the school has yielded great results, and they're in the process of starting their intervention this summer of doing Fast Forward Boot Camp to continue to support students during this time off from school.
Dr. Reed?
I just wanted to say that I think it sounds really exciting. I remember hearing it at the special ed parent engagement meeting. I'm not remembering all the acronym for that, but there were really excited teachers about this opportunity, the results and the potentiality of it. So I'm excited that it's moving forward. Or I'm thinking I would like to say it would be great to have it move forward.
Thank you.
Get it forward. The question I had was just, was there any breakdown in the types of students that were most likely to be successful with it? I don't know if you saw, like, who was more likely to get 1 versus 3. Was there any identifiers there?
So the program in general, it's beneficial for students who have special needs, who are just struggling in reading, and especially English language learners. And we saw growth in all of those areas with the students who piloted the program. So the teachers were really excited. The students were extremely engaged, enjoyed the program, and it was successful in such a short amount of time. We started this program back in October, and saw we had one student who moved through, there's different products within Fast Forward, I believe there's 5 of them, and we had one student move through one product within the first month of starting the program, and so that was really exciting to see that students were responding very well immediately to the program, and the intervention was supporting them with their reading needs across their classes as well.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Then we need a motion to approve the Fast Forward Reading Intervention Program for 2017-2018.
So moved.
Second.
That was moved by Dr. Reed and seconded by Mr. Paredes Ulloa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is the approval of piloting the Sunday Reading Intervention Program. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, Sunday actually is a direct instruction, and it will complement the Fast Forward. And we would like to pilot at some of our schools. And at this time, I would like Ariel. Ariel has been working on this also with our teachers.
Great, thank you. So we're looking to pilot Sunday, as Ms. Rodriguez shared, to supplement with Fast Forward. We're looking for providing our teachers with the tools to have a blended learning model. So with implementing Sunday or piloting Sunday next school year, that would provide teachers with that direct instruction curriculum to teach students to help remediate those reading skills, and then have Fast Forward to supplement that. So our plan is to pilot it with 2 of our elementary schools and 2 of our junior high schools. This program is designed for students K through 8, so we'd like to start there to see if this program would support student learning and also go hand in hand with Fast Forward.
Questions on this program? Dr. Reed?
Just, do you provide professional development to the teachers who are implementing it, and what does that entail?
Yes, so the Sunday has a team of trainers that will come out to the district and provide a 2-day training for teachers who will be participating in the pilot. We are proposing to potentially do this training either in late September or in October.
Mrs. Houghton?
Yes, thank you. I know you said that it would complement, but what's the difference between the two? Is it the target audience, or?
That's the style of teaching. So Sunday, it's an actual kit. It has curriculum with scripted lesson for teachers to present to students in a small group or a large group, one-on-one, whichever is most appropriate for the students, with hands-on materials, the worksheets, etc. Whereas Fast Forward, it's web-based. Students work individually in that program, and it's adaptive to their individual needs. So it is our hope that by using Sunday to really get that intervention to support students with their reading needs, and then continue to supplement that at their level with Fast Forward, that these 2 programs can go hand in hand with enhancing the learning of our students, and also enhancing the curriculum that we offer to our teachers, so they can build robust programs that is consistent district-wide.
Thank you.
Mr. Paredes Ulloa, and then Ms. Capps.
Just on choosing the product, how did that come about? What was the committee? What did that look like?
We had a reading committee that reviewed some various programs to bring to our teachers. So based on that recommendation, we invited teachers from every school site to listen to a presentation from Sunday's representatives to learn more about the program, to explore the program components, ask questions. After that presentation, all of our teachers that were represented, they voted, and it was clear that they wanted to move forward with Sunday. And then shortly after we returned from winter break, we had a showcase of the program in our Parent Resource Center to invite more teachers, parents, community members, administrators to come and explore the materials as well and provide their feedback.
And who made up the reading committee?
Who made up the reading committee is made of special education teachers, special education administrators, site administrators, and we had 1 parent representative on our committee as well.
Ms. Capps?
I'm just curious if other districts have used the 2 together. Do they go hand in hand, the 2 curriculums?
I don't have any information regarding other districts using these 2 programs hand in hand. Our vision was to have both, because we do know that there was a need to have that direct instruction, that multisensory strategies embedded into it, because our lens is mostly supporting students with dyslexia who thrive best when they're given direct instruction that is multisensory and research-based, and this program is one of those programs that meets that criteria. And Fast Forward, again, it's one of those supplementary programs that our hope is the combination of the 2 will continue to support students, so they have that direct instruction from teachers, and then the opportunity to practice these skills independently, not only in the classroom but at home as well.
Okay. So are you talking about 4 teachers, essentially, like 2 elementary, 2 junior high special
Correct.
education teachers, and then it would be sort of a pull-out time if they're in the general ed classroom or during some sort of special day class?
Right, so we would be working with all of our school sites to determine what would be the best fit. We have some schools that have a self-contained classroom where they're working with students with this intervention for a certain length of time, and we've got others that are pushed in. So it would just depend on the needs of the school sites, and the program facilitators, myself included, would be working with those teachers to determine the best model that would meet student needs.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we do need a motion.
All right, I move to approve piloting Someday Reading Intervention Program, and I hope it works.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Reed and seconded by Ms. Sims Moten. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we look forward to hearing about it in the fall. Thank you very much. I-8, this is Agreement for Contractor Services, Comprehensive School Counseling, and this is Dr. Wagnick.
Oop, you skipped number 7.
Why did I do that? I-7, I'm trying to get to the end, right? This is the approval of the Memorandum of Understanding between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Hope School District. Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you. Our partner schools who are smaller sometimes do not have programs, and so what we do is we enter in an MOU, and in this case, Hope has a elementary student that required services in our TLC program at Harding. And so at this time, we would hope to enter an MOU where the Hope School District would actually pay for the services.
Any questions? Ms. Sims Moten.
So is this for 16-17 or for 17-18?
This one is for this past year when he entered and moving forward.
So I noticed that there's not a fiscal impact. Was it, so we were paid or reimbursed from the school
Yes, the
district?
school, this MOU allows them to reimburse us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, do you need a motion to approve this memorandum?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Sims Moten and seconded by Mr. Paredes Ulloa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now it's the Contractor Services for Comprehensive School Counseling. Dr. Wagnick.
Thank you. Superintendent Matsuoka, President Parker, Board. I am pleased to bring to you the agreement for contractor services with Hatching Results LLC. In 2003, the American School Counselor Association created its comprehensive school counseling model. Our district, while engaging in parts of that model, in that time, never formally adopted the model. Until last year, we began training our counselors, all of our counselors, with the idea that students would receive a guaranteed counseling experience, regardless of what secondary school they attended. This contract is intended to continue that work by engaging Dr. Hatch and her team to come in and work with the school counselors. So I will take questions. Board members?
So this is essentially intensive public professional development for school counselors. What is the administrator role in this training?
That is a good question. Last year, the administrators who support the school counselors were invited to the professional learning opportunities that we had. And when I say last year, I mean 2016-17. I'm already saying last year. And some took advantage of that and some others didn't. In July, we actually have a team of 10 of us going to Denver for the national conference, and 6 of those are administrators. So having administrators involved in understanding the ASCA model and specifically understanding what school counselors do is very important. So to answer your question directly, yes, it will be required that one administrator and assistant principal be part of all of these trainings and be providing support to the school counselors throughout this process.
And to be clear to the public, the funding for this comes from essentially restricted funds. It's the College
Yes.
Readiness Block Grant. It will not impact our general fund.
It
to pay
has
for
no impact on the general fund.
Any other questions on this? Then we do need a motion to approve this agreement for contractor services for comprehensive school counseling.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Reed and seconded by Ms. Moten. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
I-9, approval of memorandum of understanding with Santa Barbara County Special Education Local Plan Area for 2018-19, and Dr. Jerice Butterfield. Mr. Matsuoka.
So this has been a plan in production for probably about 3 months, and you met Dr. Butterfield at a past board meeting. So she has determined a retirement date, and she's willing to extend it by a year to come work for us for half-time. And it's a fairly complicated arrangement. It involves STIRS and our commitment to really the SELPA. So the plan is for us to employ her entirely in our district in the 18-19 school year at a 50% workload. Knowing Dr. Butterfield, we will get more than 50% of services out of her. As mentioned, she really is an expert in a lot of fields, especially the theme tonight was about reading and dyslexia. And just by the way, we did fill the teacher on special assignment assigned to the dyslexia model. So that will happen in the next board meeting. So there's really a lot of convergence around supporting students with dyslexia. I think Dr. Butterfield will be providing technical support behind the scenes this year. Then the next year she works for us half-time.
Okay. Any questions on this? And then we need a motion to approve it.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Capps and seconded by Mr. Paredes Ulloa to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Santa Barbara County Special Education Local Plan Area for 2018-19, and Dr. Jerice Butterfield. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. I-10, this is the approval of the memorandum of understanding with Just Communities, Central Coast, and Jared Schwartz for implicit bias training. Mr. Matsuoka.
So the board's been briefed about our concept and strategy around working on implicit bias. That work kicks off Thursday, and we'll have about, I think about 80 of us in that pilot workshop. So it's the entire management team, and I believe we have about 15 to 20 teachers. And I see Karen McBride. You are our public right now. She is personally participating, and she personally threw her support behind this with communication to the staff. And because of her email, I think the number of signups jumped by another 70 teachers over just the last 10 days. We are up to about 180 teachers who have signed up for the fall.
Great.
Which is a really healthy number. I mean, we'd love to get to someday half of our workforce, so that would be 400 out of 800. I think we're going to get above the total 200 by the time we launch next fall. So we have 2 partnerships. Just Communities will provide part of the training. The one that follows right after is with Westmont College and Dr. Saeed. The total amounts of these 2, let's see, 70, 53. So it's about $78,000 total. And then I need to add some district costs that have not been captured in these 2 contracts. And then we have I would say we've had conversations with one of our local foundations in support of this project. I just haven't had a chance to package it all up and send it to him. And so I'm hopeful that we'll get some community support to underwrite this effort. So this is for approval of contract with Just Communities.
Any questions on it? I do need a motion.
Make motion approval of memorandum of understanding with Just Communities, Central Coast, and Jared Schwartz implicit bias training.
I second it.
Moved by Ms. Sims-Moten and seconded by Dr. Reed. All those in favor? Aye. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. This brings us to item I-11, approval of independent contractor agreement with Westmont College and Dr. Carmel. Saad?
Saeed.
Dr. Carmel Saeed. And again, Mr. Matsuoka.
So this agreement is quite a bit longer because our relationship with Westmont is it's actually been quite a data processing project. I appreciate Mr. Rouse being in many meetings with me, with the Westmont team, because what was really important was any teacher who volunteers to be part of this, there's some data that we're going to track, but all that data is going to be collected and held by Westmont College. And we needed to ensure to our staff that, we as a district are not going to hold any of that data. And all of the research, as we feed student outcomes, will also be sent over to Westmont. So we needed a pretty broad agreement about security, privacy, but we feel that this is, the language is tight, and it's also really important that we are not the keepers of that data, because it's, it's going to be very personal experiences. So I appreciate Mr. Rouse's backup on this, because he's quite the security guy.
Any questions on this agreement? Yes, Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
Not a question, but a comment. I actually got to see her at the the conference we had at the Doubletree not that long ago for the nonprofit research network. It was a great presentation. I was really impressed. So, if this goes forward, I'd really like to sit in on one of these trainings. I think she has a lot to teach, and hopefully that again, if it passes, it'd be great to add that information to the things that we're doing here in the district.
Okay, I do need a motion on this item.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved to pass this approval of the independent contractor agreement with Westmont College and Dr. Carmel Saeed by Mr. Paredes Ulloa and Ms. Capps as a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you. J1, we're moving into our report discussion agenda, and before we do that, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So we will be back shortly. I'm going to go ahead and we will reconvene our meeting and move into item J1. This is a presentation on lease-back facilities construction by a whole plethora of people. So who's going to take the lead? Mr. Matsuoka?
I will begin, and then we'll turn it over to the two gentlemen sitting in the front row. So we presented, I would say indirectly, through the Peabody Stadium, the first pass, the concept of multiple prime as a delivery method. And a quick summary of that is we hire a construction management firm to really represent us as the general contractor. In a sense, the district acts as a general contractor, but we sub that out to a firm. And then we hire all the subcontractors, concrete, electrical, et cetera. So this is a very different delivery model. Leaseback conceptually is where a district can select a builder far in advance of actually beginning construction. And it's a very interesting delivery method. I understand that Santa Barbara Unified used it with great success before the court cases, pressed pause across the state. We used it in my prior district also with great success. I think in this environment with the escalation of costs, this is a really important delivery method for us to re-engage with. Because if we could get a builder and build that relationship and have them be involved day one on the design, I think we can get a better price and really a faster delivery method. But it's complicated, and Craig has certainly been studying the changes in the law. There's some requirements that we have to hit. And so the combination of the two of them, I think Craig's going to do most of the initial presentation and then respond to questions. So that's an introduction. Mr. Price and Mr. Hedyunk.
I was going to have my partner Marissa Bowie come and be officially introduced to the board because she's doing a great deal of the work on the documentation that accompanies the LLB process as well as other facility projects. But since she has young children and lacks sleep today, I decided that I would fulfill the responsibility, my children no longer being young. As as Mr. Matsuoka said, the district began using LLB, I think in 2009, 2010 with DP Engineering Academy, and it was very, very successful. It came in almost right where the estimates had been and the guaranteed maximum price, and enthusiastically continued to use that methodology on most all projects until 2015, when there was an adverse court decision. Now, we gave you quite a bit of detail in this memo, probably considerably more than you necessarily need to know, but it is something from time to time that you can go back to if you kind of lose sight of what it's about when the project documents start to roll in, because as Mr. Matsuoka said, it is complicated. And another reason that we wanted to lay it out and spend just a few minutes talking to you about it is because you may hear from people in the community various criticisms of LLB, because by some here and around the state, it's been subjected to adverse comment due to the fact that it's a departure from traditional low bid. And eventually, there was actually somebody down in San Diego, a lawyer, who was so opposed to it that he agreed to handle any case for no fee on a contingency if he won. Well, he finally got one in Fresno. And when that happened, it upset the entire industry, because by the time the Court of Appeal decided that case in 2015, LLB had become the overall favorite in the K-12 facility construction industry. And following that, there was just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of mixed results. Some districts, with the support of their counsel, argued that they didn't think that the decision was valid or that it would hold up. It held up because the Supreme Court refused to hear it. And different districts went off in different directions. The Santa Barbara School District went off in the direction of being safe and not wanting to jeopardize any future projects or potentially subject itself to damages, such as the Fresno district faced. Ultimately, there have been, and one most recently, 3 subsequent Court of Appeal cases that disagreed with Fresno. And they said, no, it's a very valid methodology. It's embraced by the Education Code, Section 17406. And when the Fresno court found that it was not a true lease, quote, they were just wrong. Well, it's still a disagreement among the various courts of appeal and subject to challenge. But all of those issues went away, and that's the important thing I would ask you to take away with you tonight in case constituents wind up asking you about, well, why are you using this disfavored methodology? And it went away because, as I point out in the memo, last year the legislature passed a bill that just went into effect in January. It's brand new, that in effect reauthorized LLB, albeit with some modifications that were intended to do away with the criticism that it was not sufficiently competitive. Originally, the district could go out and confer with a contractor, probably a local contractor, and say, we're interested in having you do this work, and begin this process, similar process to what we're going to have going forward, except for the fact that the district can no longer go out and hand select a contractor that it wished to deal with. And under the new procedure that's in the statute, there is a different means for selecting the contractor, which is intended to, and does, avoid any charge of conflict of interest. And so, with the passage of the new law, it is not by any means a strict competitive process, meaning low bid. Rather, it's a process that requires that the district issue a request for a proposal to pre-qualified general contractors. And that request for a proposal requires that a fairly lengthy list of information be submitted, ranging from the contractor's backgrounds, how they would proceed to price the project, their track record, and several other factors. And with that information, the district, through an administrative regulation that I think is going to be brought back to you at the next meeting, if I'm not mistaken, will have a means to identify that general contractor who responds to the RFP, who is regarded as best value. Best value doesn't mean best price. It means best value looking at a number of both qualitative and quantitative factors. But in fact, they can't give you the best price because there's been no price established. As Mr. Matsuoka was indicating, the idea of LLB and the real benefit that Mr. Hetyonk and the district got from LLB was that once a contractor was selected, they came in at the outset of a project during the design phase, and they worked in a number of different ways alongside the architect and the district staff, working on constructability review, doing value engineering, doing budget estimating, giving input, going to regular meetings with all of the planning and design staff, and they became part of the project team. And there are actually many more of those steps that they will be required to take, similar to what they took before. They do estimating, budget tracking, goes on and on and on. So they really do become an integral part of the team. And the information on how they're actually going to price the construction part of the project is developed during the course of that through the subcontractors that they list, all of which have to be, the major subs have to be pre-qualified. So at the end of the day, the district, after they already have a contract with the contractor based on a determination of best value, they go through a process that can be months long, depending upon what the particular project is. They get involved before DSA is approved, and after the DSA approval occurs, they then negotiate what's called a GMP, or Guaranteed Maximum Price. And that guaranteed maximum price is based on a lot of knowledge that the district has acquired during the process that allows it to hone in on a price for the project that history has shown with Dave and his staff has resulted in guaranteed maximum prices that are very, very close to the construction estimates. So a lot of the things that occur in traditional low bid don't occur, or at least hopefully aren't going to occur because they didn't occur earlier, in terms of surprising cost overruns, in terms of change orders, in terms of all kinds of issues that occur when plans are not interpreted in the same way by the contractors, what the architect required, and so on. So it's hoped that as a result of the district going back to using this process, that you are going to be able to maximize your bond funds across all of the campuses and do it in a way that is going to result in a good deal of savings compared with other methodologies that you would need to use. We considered, by the way, Mr. Matsuoka considered and was discussed with staff possibly using this methodology for the Peabody Stadium project, but it was too late in the game to start with that because all of the benefits associated with bringing the contractor in at the beginning of the process were no longer possible because the process was already nearing completion. So from the facility team side, and I think from your administration, everybody is excited about being able to go back to this option. There's a good deal of work involved in bringing the various documents back to you, and it requires that we come forward actually on each project with an RFP. It seems as though it would be impracticable and probably questionable to try and bundle them. So those are my comments. Dave?
Well, just a couple comments. We did start with Peabody Stadium with this construction delivery method and then changed once the Fresno court case took place. So we did have a little bit of that happen with that design. I think the most important thing from a facility point is that you get your contractor in early for two main things, for constructability review and for value engineering. The contractor is part of the design team and gives input on how to make the design most efficient and cost effective. In addition, when you have a delivery method such as this, the contractor basically opens up their books. We see all of the bids from the subcontractors, and if something is out of line on an estimate in certain places, we can look at the subcontractors and say, okay, why are they seeing things a little bit differently? Why are these subcontractors' bids to the general so varied? What are they looking at differently? We also took steps to make sure that we avoided criticism from the community of being too close to contractors and just providing them jobs and accepting them guaranteed maximum sums. We still had an outside cost estimator do a cost estimate. And when the cost estimate varied by more than a couple %, we asked the architect and the contractor and the cost estimator to get together in a meeting and look, because every one of those looks at a project differently. So how did they see things differently, and what is, was the estimate off? Was the contractor off? Was the architect off a little bit? What are they not seeing together the same way in the drawings? And my philosophy was that if that meeting didn't produce a result of everybody being within 5%, I would not go to the board and recommend that we award the contract. And so we never failed to get close to the estimate, and so we never asked the board to not do a delivery method like this and do a traditional design bid instead. We're always able to find out the differences of how the estimator or the contractor or the architect saw things differently. So that's how we tried to ensure that the district still received a good value for this method.
Questions from board members on this? Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
Blame my father. So a few questions. As far as pulling the contractors, it kind of sounds like we're going to do going out for an RFP. So I'm assuming we would probably do the same thing with going like the cyber copy plan room to put out the RFP, or how would we put that out so it's not just?
We would publish in a newspaper. We would publish in trade journals. We would publish in plan rooms throughout the state. They typically pick it up. We'd also go the extra step of involving the Coalition for Adequate School Housing and CASH and CASBO. They have ads, and different architects and construction companies view those and pick them up. It's just getting out there to get people to respond with proposals. When we did this delivery method before, for different types of projects, we had 2 or 3 contractors we used for civil projects, and we had 3 or 4 contractors we used for other type projects. And we basically selected contractors in this method based on their past performance with the district. Those contractors who had a good track record with the district. We're cooperative. There was a minimum change orders. And in this method, the change order of discovering an error in the documents is basically non-existent, because when the contractor gives that guaranteed maximum price, they're telling you they've already been involved in the design, they've already looked at the drawings, they're telling the district that if something doesn't mesh or if something isn't right in the drawings between the different disciplines, it's on the contractor, it's not on the district. The only change order would be for discovery of something during construction, like finding a utility line that you didn't know was there.
And then also, LLB was pretty attractive when we did it a few years ago. You mentioned that the process changed a little bit, like maybe there's a little more paperwork. Have we gotten a sense if LLB is still popular with contractors, or it's something that might scare them off just because the process might have gotten a little more intense?
Well, because the law has only been in effect for less than 6 months, we don't really know that. But our feeling is that contractors were widely supportive of the process, especially the types of contractors that the district would want to do business with. One of the things that was touted in the past was that by using this method, because there were excellent local contractors, Dave mentioned 3 in particular who were used, it also supported local employment. And in an area like Santa Barbara in particular, I think that there's going to be good reception on the part of contractors. One of the things that we're going to need to think about more is whether or not to include in the RFP a factor that would give consideration to a contractor's knowledge of local conditions, local applicable rules, and that kind of thing. So it involves, I would think, your board wanting to support local employment, in turn probably looking to local contractors, looking to local subs that they know and do business with. But at the same time, we also want to attract a significant number of contractors who are interested in doing the work for us. So we're actually beginning the process of drafting up the first RFP for some upcoming projects that will be coming back to you, and I'm not sure if you're intending to have that come back the end of the month, or if that's going to be down the road. Oh, no.
July.
What's going to be coming back is that you need to adopt the procedures first, and those procedures will be advertised in the paper for a couple of weeks, and then after that, you'll be getting the district will be issuing the RFP.
Okay, and thank you for mentioning the local contractors, but also, interested in best value. One last question, sorry. So they're going to get paid for the whole lease LLB thing, pays them from beginning to end. So the minute that they're into the conversation with us, in past experience, just estimate, what's kind of been the percentage of that cost from beginning right up until construction actually starts? What's the percentage of that front-loaded part?
Well, maybe Dave can answer better than I can, but since I jumped in, I'll try. Once under the new procedure, the first work will be for what's called pre-construction services, and that's where the contractor does all these things that Dave was describing that's so critical to a successful project. In the last iteration of LLB, the contractors minimized their charges because they were eager to get the work, and there wasn't going to be a contract until there was a guaranteed maximum price. So the district got very good value for that. We didn't want to short sell the services that we were expecting the contractor to provide, but we wanted to be as economical as we could. So we're going to try probably and strike a similar balance.
Yeah. Our previous proposals were based on estimated hours that the contractor would spend in helping with their portion of the pre-construction services. We received good value on that, and in some cases, our contractor said, if I'm successful with the price, and it's possible, I'll include that refund for that in my guaranteed maximum sum. And so my pre-construction services would have been for free because I'm going to take that out of my overhead and profit. So depending on the contractor, some of them were very eager to participate at very minimal cost at the front end of the project.
Ms. Sims-Moten?
Yes, thank you. My question is, given the fact that there's so much work out there, how will this process help with that? Because I know some of the construction, the projects that you brought before is we've not been able to have that many bidders because they've got so much work, or the cost is exceeding because they've got so much work.
Well, I'll jump in first on this one.
Your turn. You take the hard ones.
Our contractors will know far in advance that they're in line for this project when they're selected for the project. So they're not bidding at the end of the design. They're involved at the beginning of design. Therefore, they know that and can plan to have their staff have time to accomplish this, so that contractor will not be too busy when the time comes. In addition, different contractors have different groups of subs that they use. So if you have a certain contractor who typically uses a group of subs, that group of subs know, hey, this contractor is going to get this job, so there's a pretty good chance I'm going to be a subcontractor if I sharpen my pencil and give him the best price out of the people he usually asks for bids. And so the contractor, knowing in advance and can plan for their man and woman power to administer the project, ensures that they're not too busy and they don't just throw a big number at it.
And then one more question. So who will make up the review panel to evaluate the RFPs?
That is yet to be determined. I would imagine at a minimum it would be the staff that basically was involved, the type of panels that were involved in selecting our construction managers and our architects, and we typically included a board member on those panels as well as superintendent and Meg Jeté, myself, and some other facility personnel.
There's another benefit to your last question. Let me explain a timing piece that helps out. So when these projects go into DSA, they get stuck there for 3 months to 6 months, just depends how big the project is. And when it comes out, in a traditional environment, you would go out to bid, which, it can be a 6 to 8 week period. So with lease-leaseback, you've already picked your builder. You've already selected it. Now, you'll be negotiating that guaranteed maximum price when it's in DSA, but when it comes out of DSA, what's great about it, you could start construction the next week. And I haven't really outlined this with our team, but I'm looking at the summer of 2018. We really have to try to hit that window because summer is just the optimal time to do some really messy work. If these projects kick off and you've got a campus loaded with students, it's really tough. But these timelines to get a shovel in the ground by June, 8th, 2018, leaseback gives us a chance to do that. A traditional timeline, if we go out to bid, it's going to be in the fall. And then, again, earlier minimizes inflation. So there's a lot of benefits.
If I can expand on the DSA part, when an architect submits a project to the Division of the State Architect, they get back review comments. And then after they address their review comments, they go back for a final check. Well, once the architect gets the review comments, the architect and the contractor all know what changes need to be made to the plans, and you can really start locking down prices at that point because you're pretty well know what DSA is requiring as changes to the plans. So you gain a little bit of time there also.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Question, looking down the road, this is too late to bring in for Peabody Stadium. Are there some projects that you are looking at that you think might be a good fit for this if we bring it back into the district?
I think it would be a good fit for our Santa Barbara Junior High projects coming up, our replacements, or excuse me, our modernizations of some multi-purpose rooms, and also our replacement of our portable classrooms with modular buildings. I think it would be a good method for all of those.
Yep, two schools that come to mind about the summer 2018 window are Monroe and McKinley, because they're not huge projects, but we've got to get these into design ASAP. Santa Barbara Junior High it's going to be a big project. It's probably our second biggest project compared to Peabody Stadium, given the scope of work.
Any other questions on this? Well, I'll just comment from pre-lease-leaseback days and then also post-lease-leaseback days. The change orders would absolutely kill the district. And, what would appear to be a low bid would often come back hundreds of thousands of dollars over at some, in some cases. And then delays. The lease-leaseback method really served our students well in this area, in this community, and I'm pleased to see the proposal for it to come back. Does anybody have any concerns about it coming back? Okay, then we will look forward to seeing further information on it soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This brings us to J2, the discussion of Local Control Accountability Plan 2017-20, and this is Ms. Carey and Dr. Ramirez. They're back.
Good evening, Board President Parker, Superintendent, board members. Wanted to, the last time that we met, we discussed broadly the biggest changes, the design, the process for LCAP adoption. We are, earlier tonight, we had our second public hearing, and we really wanted to have an opportunity to just do two things briefly. The presentation is here just for your review. This is really the presentation that we had our last time around, but we won't review it necessarily. It's there just for us to have context. But really this is an opportunity for us to just highlight two things. One are areas that in the documents, in the sections that have been brought current, or as current as we can bring them at this moment in time. And the other is really to give you the opportunity to ask questions, to provide your feedback, and give us your opinion on the content. So to that very point, just wanted to highlight a couple of areas that have been enhanced since the last time that we spoke. I will make mention specifically of Section 2, which is the annual update. The annual update has been updated, in fact, and the format has changed just a bit. We broke down the actions into within each goal, and remember that is from the prior year. That is one change. The other thing is that there has been a budget that, again, was last LCAP's budget brought into estimated actuals, budgeted and estimated actuals to date, based on the available information we have currently. The other changes were some modifications that happened to the goals, actions, and services. But I also would like to, afford Ms. Carey an opportunity to, share any updates to any of those sections as well.
I think the most significant thing that I would draw your attention to tonight is it's actually not part of one of the formal sections, but the additional file that is the one-page summary, which provides a admittedly simplified view, but a very accessible view of all planned expenditures from account 0790. and we're working to bring it up here on the screen. Are you able to see it on your own screens? Okay, great. So hopefully that will help kind of provide a comprehensive landscape, even though it is a summary view. And I think it's a great way to, formulate questions and commentary too. So we would be open to those now if you have them.
Questions on it, board members? Dr. Reed? Well, you can go ahead and, can they ask questions on any area at this point? Dr. Reed?
So, one of the reasons that I ran for school board was really because I was passionate about cultural proficiency and where it would fit and how it would land when 3 board members left and we received a new superintendent. So I still feel that I have to go back to that section when I look at the goal and try to understand a little bit more about what you're discussing. For example, your statement of reexamination, you are looking at a modified, or I'm sorry, it's on page 5, Goals and Action Services, under Modified Action Services. So it's
page 5, you're at
Page
28,
5.
so.
Yeah, back up. And goal number 1. There we go. And so I'm just going to, I've written some things down here because I really want to sort of highlight. The goal is to re-examine the efforts of the Cultural Proficiency and Equity Committee to determine next steps in developing an action plan to support sites and the district as a whole in assessing and improving cultural proficiency across a range of domains. So what I would like to request is part of this reexamination that's going to take place is really to give us a report or study that can be done that will provide the board with the context of the multiple efforts that are taking place currently, that have been implemented, those that are currently in place, and the potential initiatives that may be in the process of being designed across the district, in the schools and within the administration, perhaps, around the area of cultural proficiency. So, and how do these all fit in together? So essentially, I strongly believe that in order to develop and ultimately approve an action plan moving forward with anything that you decide to do, that we need a better and more comprehensive understanding of what is in place by asking questions not limited to these that I have currently, but I'm sure more will come forward. But what programs do we currently have in place across our elementary and secondary schools? What programs are in place for classified and certified staff? Are there any programs that potentially overlap in intent or focus within the schools and in the district? How and in what ways are the programs in place making an impact on our students, classified, certified staff, based on the mission and intent of the program? What evaluative measures are currently in place or need to be in place for us to analyze the data relational to the impact of these programs? How many community organizations are providing these programs, and what are the costs incurred by these organizations? And what is the overall budget for CP at this time? I still don't know what that is. And have we been provided with, or have we sought to understand the various approaches one might utilize to address CP for our district to ensure we have the multiple perspective on how to achieve cultural proficiency? So these are just some questions that come to mind when I think about this. And finally, with regards to the cultural proficiency rubric that was designed, that took over a year to put together with constituents from around the community, school, administrative, parents, students, all the like. I am very interested to learn in this report study that will be formulated what the next steps are in utilizing this rubric, this self-reflection tool for teachers. This was a huge effort of time and collaborative work, and in order to formulate a comprehensive plan, I would hate to see it disappear because so many people put their research, their heart, their souls into this product. And finally, I would be very interested in how it can be used to support our teachers in ensuring cultural proficiency in the area of curriculum development. So how might this rubric, and I know it's in various areas, but how might it be used currently to support cultural proficiency in the areas of teachers and looking for making sure that they provide multiple perspectives in the way they teach their courses?
And I'm sure she can send that all to you by email.
May I? And thank you for jotting that down, but we would welcome having that, those questions. They're excellent questions, and I agree with what you've expressed. We know that there's some very high-profile examples of how our district and its various constituencies, staff, students, family, and parents also, certainly leaders engage in different activities related to developing more cultural proficiency. And some of those would be, the implicit bias work that we're endeavoring upon that was mentioned earlier tonight and reviewed earlier tonight, but also through our partnership with Just Communities, a variety of programming that they offer, but other things as well, some of which are much less well-known. And so the goal would be to have that kind of be graduated from kind of an informal sense of what happens to what I hear you saying is something very formalized that really lets us kind of grasp what all those things are, both the high profile, the less high profile, and things that people may not even know about until we engage in that in a really intentional way. We also have, because of the new cycle of SIPSAs and LCAP, we've gotten some glimpses of what sites are doing that we wouldn't otherwise have maybe known about. So I think pulling those examples from that process into what is known and actually reaching out to make sure that we're gathering that all in one place. And again, what I hear you saying is in a very formalized and deliberate, thoughtful way, incorporating the work that is past, present, in order to best plan for future work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just tagging on to that question, so Dr. Reed was asking about the budget for cultural proficiency, and there are numbers at the end of that particular column, for example, but that is just a piece,
right?
Correct? That's the LCAP piece. And the LCAP piece, I imagine, is large, but there's going to be site spending.
Right. So I would say that the simple answer is that is the budget for cultural proficiency as far as a district funds that are dedicated to that purpose, but it is not exhaustive. There are not large repositories of other funding that is district funding going to those activities, but there are certainly site-based activities funded by site allocations that do that go to similar activities or wholly different ones, and that's what we need to capture, as you're saying.
Thank you. Any other questions, follow-up from the last time we had this presentation on the LCAP changes? Nope.
We could also add that we have received some feedback back from the county office, so we'll be incorporating some of the suggestions for revision.
What were some of their suggestions for revision?
Some of them were formatting. Some of the things that actually did manifest in the revisions that Dr. Ramirez spoke about it for the annual update. That was one of the more notable ones. We actually, I'm happy to report that we received a lot of just favorable appreciation for the changes that were made from, and it is a new template for everyone, but from past years to this iteration this year. There was also some input from Ellen Barger, is the person who gives us this feedback from the county office, about how to tell the data story in certain sections with a little more meaning than as the way it exists currently. So I would say those revisions are sort of underway, and we'll be bringing to you for the next meeting the, hopefully final proposed draft of the LCAP.
Okay, so it's plenty of time for you guys to pull any changes in before the June 27th meeting. They're like, we'll be working all night, but what the heck, right? Okay. Dr. Ramirez, you look so enthused.
If I could, I actually, I feel like the fact that that these changes were made, I think is really incredible, because a lot of it did stem from, to continue to clarify Ms. Carey's point, yes, the county office did provide us more formalized feedback, but they had been giving us feedback for the last probably 2 months now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bulk of what we needed to provide really was already reflected in these documents. So I don't want to misrepresent what their feedback has been. Yes, there are elements of formatting, elements of the structure and how to use the template that are important. But I think for us, we had embarked upon really providing greater clarity to the community, to you as board members, about the work that we are already doing, and I think that was really our intent all along. And so we're very proud of the product that is here now, and we only imagine that it will get stronger moving forward as we continue to do this work.
Great. Oh, Ms. Sims-Moten.
I just have one more follow-up to that. So were we going to be able to get the numbers behind the asterisks? I realize putting them out, it puts huge spotlight on that, but I thought you were going to send us the raw numbers to those asterisks. So
Again, with those asterisks, depending on which one specifically you're citing, we would not be able to disclose on this document because of the potential, and if Dr. Guillermo Juan were here, she'd remind me that it's important not to inadvertently disclose information that might be traced back to specific students, but we will follow up with you about getting clarity around where your questions lie so that we can target those specific areas.
Right. So not displaying it on this document, but so you're also saying that we wouldn't be able to get the raw numbers because that would be a liability as well?
It really depends on which the only identifying aspect to that is that typically the asterisk is put in a place where either data is completely unavailable or where it would be in single digits, where the possibility of disclosing student identity might come into play.
So where can I follow up with you to get that? Particularly on the African Americans and the English learners, I'm just trying to figure out.
I can email you, and you can point me in the direction of where you're looking, so that I can follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
For the public, I just want to say, that the initial summary document I think is great, and it's also really helpful to see some of the positives that have come out of our past LCAP and the work that's been going on in the district. I also really appreciate, I know that we've done this before, but the LCAP budget summary, that just one sheeter for the public that can show exactly where we're spending the about $10 million that we have available in the LCAP fund. And I'll just remind the public that this is out of about a $150 million budget. And so we do spend a lot of time on this, but it is a very small amount of our overall budget. And I don't want us to lose sight of that. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
This brings us to item K. This is returning to consent items designated for discussion, and Ms. Sims-Moten, you had pulled G6.
Thank you. So I had reached out to Dr. Rodriguez, and thank you for getting back to me, but I did have a concern about the fact that we, on the purchase orders, sorry, I'm pulling up the wrong thing, that we're asked to ratify a contract that's already ended. And so I just didn't get that answer. I know you gave me a particular that you can start a process making sure that is expedient to making sure the services are provided to the student. However, in this case, it's been provided and it's ended, and we're being asked to ratify that contract. So I'm just trying to understand the process behind that.
I believe it's on item number 1, Alegria, and that what happened is that there was an original contract that was approved through a purchase order, and that was past practice up until March, when our department was asked to now take contracts forward. And so we knew that there are going to be some contracts that are lingering out there. But in this case, what had happened is that we didn't anticipate additional services from Alegria for a program that's in our Goleta Valley Junior High CTE program. And what happened when we realized that we needed to do that, we asked Alegria to submit a contract to our office. And basically, they kind of lingered and lagged on. And when it finally came into our office, we had missed the first board meeting in May. And then when it did come in, my secretary was out ill, and then when she returned, she had missed the second deadline for the second board meeting in May. So the first board meeting for us to bring Alegria was today.
So, but the contract is ended, so what will we be ratifying? Is it a change order to the larger contract?
Yes, it's adding additional time.
Okay, so that's not what that's not what this looks like. So, I mean, I don't know if this is the normal change order process. If you're adding to a contract, is this a change order? I mean, I don't know who to ask that question to.
This is an extension. We added more hours to the original contract.
Okay. Just that language wasn't in there. I'm not trying to be argumentative, it's just that it wasn't clear. And so that's why I was concerned that we're being asked to ratify a contract that's already ended. So, okay.
Any other questions on it? Do you want to go ahead and make a motion to ratify it? Ratify that item?
It's actually you have to approve the entire list of contracts, including the ratification of that one.
All of item G6.
Right.
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, moved by Ms. Sims-Moton and seconded by Dr. Reed to approve the ratification, it doesn't sound quite right, to ratify the special education contracts for June 13, 2017. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. All right, at this point in our agenda, I'm going to go ahead. We were not able to finish closed session. And so we need to move back into closed session to discuss item, I want to say D, but there's so many letters. Yeah, D10, and that is the public employee performance evaluation for the superintendent. We will move into closed session to do that. We will then come out and report if there was any action out of closed session. At that time, we will then take just a brief summary of coming events, future agenda items, and the next meeting. We do have a special board retreat. I will go ahead and mention that now, June 20th, next Tuesday. At La Cumbre Junior High School, there's a special board retreat, and then we have our regular meetings at the end of June. All right, with that, I am going to pause this open session and move back into closed session. Thank you, guys.